Okay.
Okay, Marketa, thank you for introducing us. And probably Selçuk will start his presentation first, and I will follow him.
Yeah. Thanks, Marketa, for the introduction. Okay, as Marketa said that we are from Turkey. We are from Nevşehir Hacı Bektaş Veli University. Our main major is sports science. But at our university, we have an Equestrian Application and Research Center. So we also do some activities in our center, which recently with Yana, we started to apply paravaulting. And we have been doing equine assisted learning and also adaptive riding activities in our center. And in our group, Kürşat Özcan, Okan Miçoğulları, they are also together with us. So we just try to work together in our team and then try to implement those disciplines in our center. So let me start my presentation. Sorry. Okay, can you now see the full screen of my presentation?
Yes, Selçuk, we can.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, so today I will talk mainly about feedback, and it is very important in any kind of, not only the sports, but also in the daily life. When you are teaching any kind of skills, it can be, the tying the shoes, and also the driving or anything. It is also necessary. This is because we need to correct the movement errors. And today I will my focus is just for the paravaulting. So let's continue. When we look at the definition of feedback in any kind of, as I told you, any kind of skill learning, motor learning, the learner, the athlete or the vaulter, whatever you call, so they always ask, how did that look, and turn to the trainer or turn to the instructor and said that, oh, okay, did you see my performance? So in that case, in our picture here, for instance, the learner, the vaulter can say that, oh, I think I was able to keep my trunk in the vertical line this time, things like that. Or she can also kind of feels the performance of her own movement. So such inquiries are commonplace as learners always turn to the trainers for feedback. They always turn and they ask about their performance. In general, when we look at the definition of the feedback, it is a general term used to describe the information a learner receives about his or her own performance of a movement or skill. And it is considered the most critical form of guidance. As I told you, it is really very important feedback because most of the time the learner, the athlete, the vaulter, they cannot see their whole body movement, so that they cannot get information 100% about their performance. In this case, they need somebody, instructor, trainer, to give them information about their performance. When we look at the types of feedback, basically there are two main types of feedback. One of them is told about intrinsic feedback, and the other one is augmented feedback. Overall, when we look at the intrinsic or internal feedback, this kind of feedback, in fact, from the previous slide, as we can see, these are the vision, proprioception, hearing, touch, or like tactile information. So you probably all know about vision, hearing, touch, or tactile. Proprioception is kind of the sense of and the positioning of the body parts without visual information. So basically, when you cannot see your arm, okay, and you feel your arm is completely like, you know, the parallel to the ground and it is straight, this information is called proprioception. And this information basically coming from the sensors, from the muscles, and also from the joints. In our case, especially when we work on the paravaulting, our athletes, our vaulters are mostly the kids or the people who need special needs. Okay, so in our case, for instance, we have Down syndrome kids, we have the kids with some intellectual disabilities, and it is known that especially proprioception is very important for us because for the Down syndrome kids, let's say, they have the deficiency for the proprioception, and they have also the hyper flexibility. So basically, for the Down syndrome kids, when you work together with them in paravaulting, they have the paravaulting needs the flexibility that is needed. Okay, but for the Down syndromes, kids with the Down syndromes, they have hyperflexibility. So we need to be aware of that, and they have also some deficiency for the proprioceptive ability. So we need to be aware of that. That is why I'm telling that I will use this information later on during my presentation. Okay. And the other types is the augmented feedback, and it has two different sources: knowledge of result and knowledge of performance. When we come to the internal or intrinsic feedback, this information coming is from the body. So vision, proprioceptive, auditory, tactile. And it is the natural part of performing a skill. No matter if we have instructor or not, we kind of like have a little bit at the beginning of our learning a skill, we still have some information from our body. So we still have some information about our performance, you know, a little bit information, but, you know, still there is some information. And people are able to receive intrinsic feedback without special assistance from the other sources. So the instructor, the trainer, does not need to give any kind of information if the learner doesn't need it, of course. Okay, but if the learner needs information about his or her performance, of course we need to provide them, which is called augmented feedback. In the intrinsic feedback, for instance, in our case, in paravaulting, when is an athlete mounted on the horse, for instance, she can feel the horse's body warmth. Okay, she can feel it. So she has this information. She can get this information. And when the horse started to walk, now she can see the sway of the horse's head. Okay, because it is in front of her. So she can definitely see that. And she can sense the movement of the horse's body, because the horses will move and we will get the stimulation from the horse body, and then she can sense this movement. And she can also hear the sound of the horse's footstep. So these are all intrinsic feedback or internal feedback. When we come back to the augmented feedback, as I told you, there are two types: knowledge of result and knowledge of performance. Knowledge of result is externally presented information about outcome of performing a skill or about achieving goal of the performance. Okay, when you touch that button in less than 5 seconds, for instance. For instance, I am just measuring your reaction time and you hit the button. I say your reaction time is 350 milliseconds now. When I give this information, this is called knowledge of result. For instance, let's say in basketball or in team handball, you shoot the ball. In team handball, for instance, you missed the shoot. Okay, so this is the information. In archery, for instance, you throw the arrow into the target and you get 8 points, and the your instructor, your trainer tells you that, okay, you got 8 points now. So all those informations are called knowledge of results. But in our case, in paravaulting, in fact, we don't need too much the knowledge of result. We don't need this information, okay? What we need is basically, we need knowledge of performance, okay? And this is the information about the movement characteristics that led to the performance outcome, okay? So basically, knowledge of performance is a type of feedback which gives you information about your movement performance, okay? For instance, I can give you some examples. You didn't lift your knees high enough, okay? This is the information, and this is the external information, augmented feedback, and this is the information about the performance. You lean forward too much, for instance, again, about the performance of the movement and the quality of the movement. And the other example, for instance, you had a flexed knee when you raise your leg. So again, it is about the quality of the movement, and it's about the performance of the movement. And this is very important for us because in paravaulting, the ground exercises, when you do an exercise on the ground with the barrels, for instance, or without the barrels, and when we try to show the movements in paravaulting, compulsory movements to the vaulters, at that time we can also use this kind of information. But it is important to know that when they are on the horse, when they are mounted on the horse, so the movement will be a little bit difficult for them, okay? And this is basically this information feedback overall. It is very essential at the early stage of learning, okay? The first stage of learning, during the first stage of learning, everybody, needs augmented feedback, especially knowledge of performance. So these are basically some examples for the knowledge of performance feedback types. Why it is important, the knowledge of performance? Because it enhances the task intrinsic feedback the person can detect, and it adds information that the person cannot detect. If especially the initial stage of learning, it is very important, it is very crucial to provide the learners, to provide our athletes the knowledge of performance feedback, okay? And amount of instructor feedback given to athletes significantly correlates to appropriate practice in which athletes are engaged. So, and it is like, we need to continue the practice, and we need to continue at some point to give this information to the athletes. And what is the function of knowledge of performance? The main function is, of course, the correcting the performance errors, the main function. And of course, we give this feedback, okay, when the learner, when our athletes makes an error. So the main function is correcting these errors, and it helps the learner achieve the goal more quickly. And it influences the person's perception and her own ability in a skill, it motivates basically. And the other function is the reinforcement, because for the next trial, when the athlete try the same movement after the feedback, she will try to correct her errors, and this will reinforce her motivation. What kind of approaches that we use when we are providing the feedback? One approach, and it is widely used approach, is the sandwich approach. Okay, in this approach, what we do first, we provide information to reinforce correct performance. It is very important. When we will provide the feedback, the first thing that we need to, especially when we working together with the parawalters, is basically we should provide information to reinforce the correct performance. For instance, in our case, in this picture on the left side, I don't know if my left is your left. In this picture, for instance, as you can see, there is like this these athletes knees is flexed. Okay, it's not straight, but when we look at her hands, her arms, they are correct. So in this case, what we can say that, oh, okay, your hands were correctly positioned on the handle. Okay, this is what we said. And the second thing is just to make the error correction. And what we do is what we say in this information, in this feedback, we say that, okay, but your knees, your right knee was not straight. You flexed your knee. It was on the flexion. And the third stage is in the sandwich approach to motivate the learner. What we do is basically we offer encouragement to motivate the learner to incorporate the recommendations provided. So for the next trial, now when we look at the right picture, we say that, okay, in this one, the first one, your hands were correctly positioned, your knee was flexed. In the next trial, try to stretch your leg so that it's going to be straight. Okay, this would be the approach. This would be the example in paravaulting. Okay, so it is a widely used approach, as I told you, and especially for the paravaulters, it has to go this way. So when you provide the feedback, it has to follow this stages. For the precision, whatever we information give to the vaulters, it has to be this information. It has to be precise. Okay, but we need to consider. It is very important. Maybe I should have told you at the beginning, but we have to definitely. We have to definitely get information about our athletes, about our vaulters. We need to know them. We need to know their past experiences. If they have any kind of sports experiences before, we have to know that. We have to know their understanding of the words. If everybody understands the words in the same way, otherwise, whatever you say will not be able to understood by the learner. Okay, so when we are providing the feedback, this information should be precise, but it depends on the learner too. So when you say, for instance, your knee was not flexed, was not straight, or your knee was in the flexion. So if the learner doesn't know the meaning of flexion, this means that she will not understand you. So no matter you say like couple of times, 5 times, 6 times, she will not be able to understand you. So we need to know our background, our past experiences for our vaulters, for our athletes, so that we can provide a specific, information for each of them. Okay, so and this is like we need to consider the skill level of the learner. This is for sure. And as I told you in the previous slides, the initial stage of learning, in this stage, especially in the first stage, when we just started teaching them in paravaulting, the precision can be quite general. So not to be very specific. You should be precise, but not too specific, especially in the initial stage of learning. When they when the athletes, when the vaulters improve their skill level, then you can be more specific about the information that you provide as a feedback. And skill refinement, we should use more precise information when we provide learner understand its meaning. So again, I'm telling you, so we have to definitely be sure that when, for instance, you are saying a glass, so everybody should understand the glass, the meaning of glass in the same way. Otherwise, whatever you say, it will not be, corrected by the learner, by the athlete. So it is very important to know the learner stage, and the learner past experiences. It is really very important. And when we are providing the feedback, it is really very important also the content of the feedback. Because feedback directs attention to a part of the movement. And it directs also attention to a part that will significantly improve the overall movement. Maybe in the previous slide, as we pointed out, in the beginner stage, the vaulter may not benefit from precise feedback. Then we should only provide error-based feedback on movement error large enough to matter. Okay, so and in fact, it is, we should be very careful when we providing the feedback. We should be very careful that as a trainer, as a coach, as an instructor, we should also try those kind of movements. We should know the movement itself, okay? If you do not know the movement in paravaulting, you cannot teach. You cannot teach. It is really very important. You cannot be a paravaulter. That is okay. I mean, I'm not saying that when you are teaching paravaulting, you should be a paravaulter in your previous, experiences, or in your previous years. You should be also doing paravaulting. I'm not saying that, but you can be, as an instructor, you should try to, you should be able to do all the movements in paravaulting by yourself, okay? Otherwise, you cannot teach. Because you have to feel that movement, you have to feel, and you have to understand the patterns of those movements so that you can teach. And you can provide the information, you can provide the feedback. Otherwise, if you do not ever in your life tried those movements in paravaulting, you will not be able to teach it. Okay, so you have to be aware of this. And when we are providing the feedback, one important point is also the frequency. You should ask yourself, should I give the feedback for every trial, for every time? Should I provide the feedback? And there is in the literature an hypothesis which is called guidance hypothesis. And this hypothesis is basically suggesting that we should provide feedback, especially in the initial stage of learning, in the beginner level. We have to provide a little bit, maybe more frequently, okay? But as the learner improves her skills, then we should reduce the frequency of the feedback. And the reason is not to create a dependency, because most of the studies also saying that if you provide the feedback 100% feedback for every trial, for every movement, when the learner try to do the movement, for every time if you provide the feedback, it creates, unfortunately, a feedback dependency. So basically, the learner does not try to use his or her own intrinsic feedback. And we should just like motivate them. We should reinforce them to use their own intrinsic feedback. And the guidance, according to the guidance hypothesis, we should just decrease the amount of feedback gradually. And there is a technique, fading technique. This is the form of feedback in which one systematically reduces feedback frequency. And the examples, for instance, we should start with the 50% of the giving the feedback in 50 every 2 trials we will give 1 feedback, and every 4 trials we will give only 1 feedback again. So we will decrease the frequency of the feedback gradually, and at the end, in fact, we will ask the learner if she needs the feedback, if she requests the feedback. If she requests, we will provide. But if she doesn't need to request, and if she doesn't request, so we don't need to give the feedback at that time. And this would be the way how we should, implement or provide the feedback to our learnings. And the other issue is, should we really give the feedback, And the main deciding person for this one is the practitioner, is the trainer. The trainer must determine whether feedback is redundant. If it is redundant, you don't need to give, If you can see that the learner, the Walter, cannot, correct her own movement, then, okay, we can provide. We can provide. And don't forget, we are working with the people who need special, with the special needs. So basically, for those kind of population, the number of the feedbacks that we will be provided can be a little bit more. Okay, so you can provide at the initial stage maybe 100% frequency. So for every trial, you can provide the feedback. You can provide the feedback. But as far as you can see as a trainer, as an instructor, you can see the improvement, then you should start decreasing the frequency feedback. Okay, and it also depends on the task complexity. If the task is very complex, then the frequency should be increased. So you should provide more feedback. If the task is an easy task, then you don't need to provide feedback every trial. And as I told you earlier, experience of the learner is also a crucial factor. So if the learner is very experienced, if the learner is already had some sports experience in the past, then probably you don't need to give too much feedback for those learners, for those athletes. And one purpose of feedback is to motivate learners to want to produce effective movement. So just to motivate the learner, for the learner should do a better movement, better skill. And another purpose of feedback is to help learner understand how to develop, how to understand, and plus how to use intrinsic feedback. And for those reasons, when we provide the feedback, we can use the terms feel, sense, this kind of words we use. Try to feel your shoulder when you are putting your arm parallel to the ground. So when you're raising your leg on the back side, try to feel your leg muscles flexed, not flexed, sorry, stretched, so that the movement is correct. Okay, feel your muscles, feel the tension of your muscles, things like that. Sense your arm, things like that. So the words, those kind of words, you can use as an example, so that they will be kind of instructed to use the intrinsic feedback. And this is it for my side. Normally, the feedback and providing feedback is also like, you know, I might need like 2-3 hours to give all those information, because we should normally start about how the errors is like, you know, created, you know, why the learners make this kind of errors. So we should have started in those topics, but we have the time limitation. So I just wanted to give basic information about the feedback and how we can provide the feedback when we are teaching paravaulting, so that our practice session, our trainings will be more effective. And by the way, you know, there is like in the literature recently, practice makes perfect. There is like a phrase which is like, you know, practice make perfect, but now it changed to good practice make perfect. So you need to arrange your practice in a good way. You know, you need to plan it in advance, so that you will get the best benefit and most benefit out of it. Thank you for you know, attention, and thank you for listening me. And if you have any question, I would be very happy to answer.
Selçuk, you need some feedback, yes?
Yes, please. If you provide me some feedback, would be good.
It was great, thank you. Very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you, Eva. Yana has a question. Yes, Yana? Yana, you are muted. I cannot hear you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. Now you can hear me. I have one question, because I know you have a mixed group of kids in your paravaulting, mainly with the intellectual disability, but I know you have one deaf girl inside the group. So how you can communicate with all this group together, and how you can get the feedback from her? Because I think it should be very interesting and very difficult.
Okay, Yana, that's a perfect question, by the way, because as you said that, I mean, we work with different, you know, group of people, okay, and the people with special needs, and most of them has different disabilities. For the deaf, okay, we need to definitely learn the sign language, you know, otherwise you cannot. So it is not easy, in fact. So basically, when you are creating your group of athletes, you should be, you know, kind of like a selective. Unfortunately, I mean, if you have knowledge about the sign language, you are perfect. You are perfect, and you can. Okay, if you do not know even like the sign language, then you should use your gestures, and you should be definitely 100% sure that the kid is looking at you. Okay, if she can or he cannot, he's not looking at you, whatever you show, whatever you know, try to explain, will not be able to understood by her. So basically you will just get in front of her, and then try to communicate, try to show the movement. Okay, for those kind of kids especially, Yana, it is better to use the biofeedback, which is called biofeedback. So everybody has the mobile phone right now, the smartphones, and all the smartphones has the, you know, video properties, and the, you know, the camera properties. So basically for those kind of kids, it is better to take their videos to show them, and when you show them, you should be also showing the correct movement to them. Okay, otherwise the information will not be processed by them. And the same thing is also for the blind people. Okay, they will not see, but they will hear you. Okay, so for them, especially when you are using the words, it is really very important to use the words. Feel your shoulder. Yeah, I mean, like for instance, when they are doing a movement with the arms on the sides, let's say, so you gotta use some words, very important, and very it's gonna be very kind of like helpful for them to understand better, you know. So yeah, it is very difficult. It is really very difficult, but you can do it. And how you understand, after you show the deaf girl, let's say, after you show the movement to deaf girl, if she can do it like in a better performance, a better technique, then you will say that, okay, she understood me. But if she does the same errors again and again, it means that, sorry, but whatever you say, it's on the air, okay? It's not on her head. So it is very difficult to be a trainer, you know. It is really very difficult to be a trainer.
Thank you.
I don't know if you got the answer, but yeah, I mean.
Yeah, sure. Yes. Thank you so much.
You are welcome, Anna. Professor Miçoğulları has a question.
Good
Yes.
evening for everybody. It was really good presentation. Thank you so much for this plenty information about the situations, and very good sentence you used to Yana. It's really tough to be a trainer.
Exactly.
And here is the question. You said knowledge of performance, right?
Yes.
Yes. Which type of information we should use to our players or our vaulters? For example, should we say you are doing this wrong, or can you try this in other way? I hope you understand what I mean.
Yeah. Basically,
for example, you should stay on the horse vertical, but she or he doesn't do that, and you realize it, and should you say that your position is wrong, or can you try this more this side or this side or this type?
Yeah, I
you know what I
understand.
mean? Because
Exactly.
psychology of the kids are so important. If you say so many times you are wrong, maybe you will not touch their hearts and their minds, and
I totally...
in some minutes they will stuck themselves about that.
Yes. Professor Miçoğulları, I totally understand you. Basically, in this sandwich approach, like when you're providing a feedback, there is like this approach, the sandwich approach. Okay, the first thing that you need to give information about their correct movement. Okay, the first thing. Oh, you did the holding the handle perfectly, you know, but your leg was flexed. So the next trial, try to stretch your leg so that it's going to be straight. But okay, this is basically I didn't mention in detail in my presentation because I have limited time. So basically, when you're providing information, there are two types of knowledge of performance feedback. Okay, one is the internal focus of attention, the other one external focus of attention. In the internal focus of attention, you are providing information about especially the body parts of the learner. Okay, when you say make your leg straight, this is internal focus because she will focus on her leg. But when you say that, for instance, your leg should be like a stick, you know, so this is external focus of attention. But okay, it is the language and also the experiences, the knowledge of the learner. Okay, so you should, for instance, you can just say that instead of like raise your arm and then a little bit like 45 degrees and your body will be, your trunk should be like straight. You can say that, you can give this information, but you can say that, oh, try to be a Superman. Okay, so this is when you say that, oh, try to be a Superman, but you need to be like, you need to know that if the girl or boy knows Superman. Okay, So you need to get this information in advance. That's why I told that you have to have information about you have to have knowledge about each Walters. Okay, for each Walter, for each learner, you need to know them. If you do not know, if you do not know them, so it is going to be very difficult for you to give this information. Okay, so basically, in most of the studies, if you provide external focus of attention feedback information, it is more helpful, especially for those groups who needs special, with these people with special needs. It is very also important. Instead of using their body parts, using the external object, analogy will be more helpful for them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Miçoğulları. Eva, you have a question?
Not exactly. I would like to say that what Professor said, I think that important is to avoid negative sentences, because children very often with the special needs, they very often hear that something is wrong with them. So that's why we should use positive sentences. For example, look, if it's good, what you can change or something like this. Not, it's wrong, you did wrong. We should use, as you said, for example, examples of the Superman, or do it like this, not avoid saying it's wrong.
Yes, yes. Like try to be a plane, try to be like flying plane, things like that. These kind of like information, especially external information, would be definitely very helpful for them to understand better, because this is not my saying, this is not, my word. These are the, the results from the scientific studies. So basically, of course, the most important thing is we need to reinforce them. All right. So Eva, thanks for the contribution. We have to be really very careful. But plus saying that, don't forget that. Okay, this is not therapy. Okay, this is not service. This is paravaulting. So it is kind of a sport. All right. We have to motivate them. I'm not telling that. Okay, go and then push them, force them. No, no, no. I'm not saying this. Okay. But this is not a therapy. This is just a sport. It's a parasport. It's a paravaulting. So we have to be also kind of a little bit professional. Of course, the main reason is to get them better, to help them more and to get them to apply better performance when they are doing paravaulting, So thanks, Eva, again. Yana?
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more question. I don't want to interrupt you, but we should continue with the second speaker, if it's possible.
Yeah, we can just finalize the. No, just kidding. It's almost 50 minutes, something like that. So, but that's okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
I would like to thank you for the organizer, for the Czech Equestrian Federation, and also Yana for this opportunity to share our knowledge with everybody. And then thanks for your participation again. Now the stage is yours, Uğur.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your nice presentation.
Thanks.
Greetings, everybody, and first of all, thank you, Yana, for inviting us to present something that can be very useful people for the who are involved in para sports and especially paravaulting. Today, I would like to give you a presentation on general training principles and their connection, application to the sports paravaulting. But the principles of training is very intense, very complicated, very sophisticated subject. So I'm going to try make an abstract for you. Okay, so let me share my screen. Yes. Okay, can you please inform me if it is okay? Can you see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Okay, before we dive into specific training principles, let's understand what athletic training really means and how it becomes our framework for developing successful athletes. Athletic training is a comprehensive, systematic, which I'm going to explain in the following slides of this presentation, which is a comprehensive, systematic approach to physical conditioning and sports preparation that aims to enhance an individual's athletic performance, prevent injuries, and promote overall physical well-being. And for the people with disabilities, athletic training is also adapted to accommodate different abilities while maintaining their fundamental goals. Okay. So, what means comprehensive? Comprehensive methodology ensures that all aspects of an athlete's development are addressed systematically, recognizing that success in paravaulting requires more than just physical capability. The interplay between physical preparation, technical mastery, psychological readiness, and overall well-being forms the foundation of effective paravaulting training. The physical components form the cornerstone of this approach, meaning the development of strength for mounted positions, endurance for routine completion, flexibility for movement execution, and specific adaptations required for each athlete's unique needs. Technical skill development works in parallel with physical preparation, focusing on the precise movement and positions. And also, this includes not only the execution of specific vaulting elements, but also the fundamental skills of horse-rider interaction and spatial awareness. Mental preparation and psychological resilience are equally important, which means acknowledging the unique challenges of performing gymnastics movements on the horseback and the confidence required for successful execution. Nature of athletic development extends beyond those because we need to also consider nutrition planning, recovery management, injury prevention strategies, in addition to regular health monitoring ensures all aspects of training contribute positively to the athlete's overall development and well-being, creating a sustainable approach to long-term participation and success, of course, in paravaulting. Okay. So, what systematic refers? Systematic nature of paravaulting training presents a careful structure and methodological approach that ensures, this is very important, orderly skill development and performance enhancement. This organized methodology provides a clear framework for training implementation, where each element builds logically. There needs to be logic, for sure, and upon previous foundations, creating a reliable pathway for athletic development. The systematic approach ensures that training is not random. There needs to be an order, but follows very well planned sequence that maximizes learning and adaptation while maintaining the most important thing, maybe safety. So these elements work together like pieces of puzzle. You cannot achieve optimal results by focusing only one aspect or training randomly. Each component has to carefully plan and integrate it with the others, creating a complete approach to athletic development that follows scientific principles, I can say, and the proven methodologies. So there are 4 primary aims of athletic training, which are, first of all, of course, the performance enhancement, which means developing specific physical attributes like speed, strength, endurance, flexibility, balance, coordination, and of course they should be, followed by a structured training programs tailored to individual capabilities and goals. The other one, the second one, is injury prevention, building proper movement patterns, body awareness, and structural strength to reduce the risk of sports-related injuries while considering any existing conditions and limitations. The third one is very important, actually, for the activities with people with disabilities or special needs, because it is very important to increase their functional improvement, which means enhancing the ability to perform not only the sport-specific movement but also daily activities efficiently and safely through targeted exercises and progressive training. The final one, the last one, is health promotion, supporting overall physical and mental well-being through regular physical activity, proper nutrition, and recovery strategies, I can say. Okay, now we can continue with the main principles of athletic training with some application examples for paravaulting. So progressive overload represents a fundamental training principle that ensures safe and effective skill development. This systematic approach involves gradually increasing the physical and the technical demands of maintaining safety and building also the confidence. The principle is implemented through a carefully structured progression that begins with, of course, all we know that, ground-based activities and advances to, mounted work on the horse. The application starts with establishing foundational skills on the ground. Then, we can progress with the barrel work, for example, and then ultimately at the end, advancing to the mounted exercises. Each stage incorporates gradual increases in complexity, duration, and also the independence of the movement. For example, initial phases should focus on basing, positioning, and core stability with full support. As the vaulter develops, strength, balance, and endurance, of course, with the confidence, the level of support systematically should be reduced while the movement complexity and the duration are increased. Okay. Also, we need to, look at the situation from the other perspective. I mean, not from the trainers or the, participants' perspective. Also, we should include the horse that we use. So that's why another key aspect of progressive overload in paravaulting is the integration of horse rider dynamics. The progression considers not only the physical capabilities of the vaulter, but also their ability to maintain harmony with the horse's movement. This includes, advancing from work with the stationary horse, maybe, and in some cases, and faster gaits. But, we need to always ensure both vaulter and horse safety and comfort. Okay, the second principle of the training is the specificity. And this principle in paravaulting emphasized that the training adaptations must directly align with the unique demands of the mounted gymnastics. This principle aims that every training component has a clear purpose and transfer to the actual requirements of paravaulting performance. In practice, for example, the principle guides the development of training routines that mirror exact movements in the competition, exact positions in the competition, and the physical demands, while the participants or the athletes, perform in the competition. As an example, ground-based training should incorporate exercises that replicate the muscle activation patterns and the balance challenges experienced on horseback, which means, every, exercise, every element in the training should prepare the athletes, the participants to the competition. Okay, this, principle of training implies that. The use of training parallels serves as a crucial bridge between ground exercises and mounted work, allowing vaulters to practice sport-specific movements in a controlled environment while developing the precise motor patterns required for, again, the competition performance. In addition, specificity, not only for, again, for the athlete, but also it is very essential to horse rider coordination, I can say. This involves specific exercises to enhance the vaulter's ability to synchronize with the horse's movement and rhythm, adapt the horse's gait changes, and maintain balance on a moving surface. Okay, maybe Selçuk can explain it better, but this principle says that basically, you can train on the ground, you can train on the barrel, but okay, these trainings have beneficial effects to do, the overall training, overall performance, but for the specificity, you need to train on the horse for sure, because it is, competition specific training. Okay, what do we need for the implementation of this principle? First of all, careful analysis of each vaulter's competition requirements and the functional abilities. The training programs that are designed to target exact skills for their competition category will help us, like including their specific compulsory exercises or the freestyle movements. Okay, the third one is the individual differences, and this principle is also very important for people, for disabilities or specific needs, because this principle acknowledges and embraces the unique characteristics of the people or their abilities, their needs, and it says actually each athlete, meaning that no two paravaulters will respond to the training stimuli in an exact same way. This principle is particularly crucial in paravaulting, where the diversity of the disabilities, physical capabilities, previous experience, and the emotional responses to horse interaction creates a very complex matrix of individual factors that must be carefully considered in training program design. We should consider all of those, all the parameters, all the factors, affects individual performance for preparation or trainings. In practical implementation, this principle requires a comprehensive understanding of each paravaulter's specific disability characteristics. For example, their physical capabilities, their learning style, psychological approach. We need to know all of those. Factors such as balance capacity, grip strength, sensory processing, cognitive understanding, and previous equestrian experience, all of those are separately, individually, affect their overall performance. Evet, yeah. The next one is recovery and adaptation. This principle represents a critical principle that addresses the body's response to training loads and the essential rest periods needed for physical and mental regeneration. This principle takes on an importance in paravaulting due to the unique demands placed on the athletes with disabilities, who must manage both the physical challenges of the mounted gymnastic and the additional energy expenditure of required to compensate actually their disabilities, their specific needs. So understanding and implementing appropriate recovery strategies is again fundamental to ensure sustainable progress and the preventing the overuse injuries. Okay, the fifth principle of the training is the reversibility. This principle addresses the psychological and the physiological, also the technical consequences of training interruption, that acquired adaptations and skills can diminish, can go away, can go back, we can say, when the regular training is discontinued. This principle holds a particular significance in paravaulting, where the complex interplay between disability-specific abilities and mounted skills and horse rider coordination requires consistent maintenance. Also, paravaulting, again, involving the horse, I can say that, presents unique challenges regarding to reversibility due to the specialized nature of the horse riding interaction and adapted movement patterns. Certain skills, for example, the feeling the horse, we can say, particularly those related to dynamic balance on horseback and timing with the horse's movement, may decline very, very rapidly than the general fitness components. When we implement this, principle to do our trainings, we need to consider a lot of things, but again, with a careful planning and the monitoring, especially when returning after a break or after a holiday or, between seasons, we need to actually safely reintroduce vaulting movements, rebuild horse rider connectivity, and re-establish the confidence in performing mounting skills. The sixth principle of the athletic training is variation and or periodization. And in paravaulting, that means a systematic approach to organizing training into the structural phases that optimize performance development while preventing monotony or the plateaus of the performance. This principle is particularly vital in paravaulting, where the complexity of the combining adapted gymnastics with horsemanship requires. And again, it needs very, careful, very structured training methods to build, these kind of complex elements, many elements into the performance. So after all, the structured variation of training intensity, training volume, and the focus helps to maintain both physical and psychological engagement while accommodating disability-specific considerations and the unique demands of, again, horse-rider partnership. So, thank you for Thank you all for your attention today. Let's remember that these training principles are practical tools help us to create safe, effective, and enjoyable paravaulting experiences. You can work with beginners or advanced athletes. These principles give us a clear framework for developing skills and building confidence. Thank you for being part of this, project, community, presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. No questions?
I think your presentation was so clear.
Thank you very much. I guess Yana has a question.
Thank you, Uğur.
Thank you very much.
For the nice presentation. I don't have a question, just one note. When I saw at the last picture, there was one vaulter on the barrel and 3 coaches near to the barrel. So you are very, very lucky that you can have 3 coaches in one session. So I'm jealous a little bit.
Okay, you know our environment, you know our place and facility very well. Okay, the most of the practices that we have are held by Kürşat. Okay, but whenever he needs, we are there to help him and actually take care of the kids altogether.
And I guess all of you have knowledge about the training, sports training.
Yeah. That's why we actually focus on adaptive riding and nowadays paravaulting.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I ask a question?
Of course.
If you are training as an athlete in sports, are you also offering competitive sports opportunities for these vaulters?
Okay, paravaulting is actually a competitive, sports branch. You can have multiple purposes, as I said, for example, to increase their well-being, self-care of the disabled kids or adults, but it's a competitive sport for sure. So okay, we need to consider the other things, especially their needs, and we need to plan our training programs or considering their disabilities, but at the end, we need to prepare the participants, the athletes, paravaulters, I mean, for a competition. So we need to apply all of those principles to our training methodology. That's what I'm trying to say.
So here in the United States, we are wrestling with the idea of how we offer a competitive opportunity to those who have differences. And we've not yet truly developed that. So my question is, in Europe, has that been developed? Or are we still talking about what I would call feel-good opportunities rather than sports competitions?
Okay, I couldn't understand your question very well, but as far as I can understand, I can say, you can include all those, things, actually, competitive sports too. Plus, you have the competition.
So Kim, can I also interfere? So basically, I totally understand, in fact, what you asked. Basically, If you are asking to my opinion, should it be like a sports competition or should it be a, let's say, kind of like a recreational activity? It's a very good question, to be honest. I don't know. There are lots of like, you know, there are lots of things that we can talk, but basically it can be just like a recreational activity for the disabled kids or disabled population, you know, or people with special needs. So basically it can be like that. So it doesn't necessarily be to like a real competition, but as far as I know from Czech Republic, Jana can tell you more. But in those countries, for instance, when you do a competition, a paravaulting competition, they also provide the e-words for everybody, you know, for all the participants. So this is like a dilemma. Should we make it like, should we train them to be a competitor, or should we just train them to make them like to feel them better? You know, it's a very good question. But you know, I cannot me myself, I cannot like tell you which one is good, you know. So but for sure to force them and then to train them like just for the competition, of course I do not support this. I do not support this like idea. It can be more, it can be both. Basically, I would say that both kind of an activity that they really enjoy, but after some point, maybe after some point, after they get like, you know, let's say very competent to be able to show their performance, so that they can switch it to the, you know, from the recreational point of view to the competition point of view, you know. This would be my answer, but still, you know, I could go both way, you know. So
okay. I'm sorry, but you know, I was trying to make an explanation, literally, you know, literature meaning. If you consider paravaulting as a sport, you need to compete, but it doesn't mean that you cannot do it as a recreational activity. You can. You cannot. You don't have to participate to the competitions, but in the definition of sport, there is also competition. That's what I'm trying to explain. Okay, you can do it as, you know, as a physical activity, as a recreational activity. It's for sure. It's
exactly.
a pleasure. It's a pleasure. But if you consider it as a sport, you need to compete. So I guess that's all. I cannot see any other question.
Maybe what I would add for the end to Mrs. Basecker, if I'm not totally making the name wrong. If you are interested in the competition side of things, I would say maybe get in touch with Mrs. Tomishkova, Auriana Tomishkova, because I'm very sure that she can provide you with more information and what we have been doing already regarding this. So
Yeah.
that would be maybe my recommendation.
No, she provides a lot of, you know, a lot of information for years now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, yes. And, you know, actually she is the person that we trust.
But am I
Okay.
correct that those are separate and not integrated? In other words, one class does not incorporate individuals with challenges and what we would call able-bodied individuals.
Okay, Kim, I couldn't hear the beginning of your question. Can you repeat it?
My question has to do with competitions being offered where within the same class we have both able-bodied individuals, for any other term, and those individuals with challenges being able to compete in the same class, but creating an even competition ground.
Okay. Maybe Yana can explain it better, but you know, as far as I know, you don't need to, you know, compete. How can I say, kids with disability and the, you know, able kids against, you know, they need to, you can create, you know, groups, mixed groups. So if you want to make a competition, you can make it with mixed groups, you know, when, okay, I will say it in quotation marks, one healthy kid, one disabled kid as a group, and, you know, the other group can be like this too. Maybe, okay, Yana, you can explain better than me probably.
Okay, so for example, in Czech Republic, we have competition mainly for vaulters with special needs, but we have one special group with able-bodied vaulters, and they can compete in a team as a mixed group. But these healthy people are not competing in Czech Championship. So they can compete only in a team, but not as an individual. If they are able-bodied, they can compete in normal vaulting competition. But as you said, you are not doing paravaulting as a sport. So I think it's quite hard to start with paravaulting as a sport, because you need support from, for example, your federation, association. And in Czech Republic, we have maybe more than 25 years of history of this vaulting sport. So now I'm trying to a little bit move it internationally and support other countries to start with this activity as a sport. But you are very welcome to come to Czech Republic to see how we are working with kids and how we are organizing competition.
And I think we have similar in the United States. We are looking for a fully, what we term, integrated community. Everyone in the same competition.
Yes.
As individuals.
Yes. But still, we have competition, vaulting and paravaulting competition. We have separate calendar. Because we have approximately 60 paravaulters and 60 vaulters, and it would be impossible to do it in one day. So that's why we can share our vaulters as a mixed group. Okay, so I'm thinking we are coming to the end for today. There's no other questions. Okay, it seems there are no other questions, so I would like to thank to our two presenters. It was quite nice to see you, to hear you, to learn something new. I don't know if Marketa would like to say something.
Yes, I'm still here. I will not bother you anymore. I would just like to thank you as well. for the speakers and for all the attendees. And of course, we will have the recording available in a short time. It will be distributed and it will also be available at the website of the Czech Equestrian Federation, which is the dedicated part for the project itself. So thank you so much, and wishing a lovely evening.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening too.
Same to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.